Welcome to 20 at 10 with Nat. I'm your host, Natalie. My special guest tonight is Ben Jones, an artist, singer, songwriter, guitarist, and one half of Beetroot Revival. And he's just released an album called Going Nowhere Fast. All these songs were written during and recorded at home during lockdown. And he released it at the end of 2020. So please put your hands together for Ben Jones.
Hey!
Hey, welcome.
Hey, how's it going?
Great, how are you?
I'm good. Survived the first of the great Texas storms of this week.
Yes, the storm
Survived.
systems of May. Yes.
That's right. Yes.
We were just prior in soundcheck discussing how, at least for me, when a storm blows through, I get energized. And even if it's a gloomy day, and that can be kind of like put the covers over your head, like I just have to watch the storm blow in.
Oh, me too. I mean, I really wish I had a porch, because I would sit out on the porch and I would really just enjoy it all day long. I think it's a funny thing because obviously I've lived in the United States, I mean predominantly in Austin for 7 years now. And when I left England, a lot of people would ask, you'd meet random people and they'd recognise the accent as not being from around here. And they'd say, what brought you here? I'd say about the music thing, but they'd say, why Austin particularly? And I'd be, well, the music scene, but I said also the weather. It's like you come from England where you're used to kind of consistent rain for 7 or 8 months of the year. It's a novelty to not have to deal with that. But the funny thing is, because of obviously 2020, I haven't been able to go home since April of 2019. So it's funny. For the first time, I really do miss home. Because before I didn't miss it because I always knew it was available to me. I could go and get on a plane. Whereas not having that taken away, and then I'm also going through my visa renewal process as well. So it's kind of like two worlds colliding that have stopped me from going home. And in my, just in my small little world, we've all got the issues that COVID has presented to us. But that's a big one for me, obviously, because not being able to see my family for that period of time. But the rain, it makes me very sentimental, because I'm so used to it in England, and I think I took it for granted, because in England you realise that you live with the seasonal affective disorder the majority of your life, whereas when I came here I realised I had such a more consistent, sunnier disposition, and that because of the sun. So I'm enjoying the rain.
Disposition is a fair weather friend.
Yes.
Nice. So you prefer to watch the storm blow in by way of standing outside in it.
Oh yeah, I love being out in it. I mean,
if I feel protected, I like being out, watching it roll in, feeling kind of the wind, like the wet wind hitting your face. But like if I'm exposed, like there's no covering, I'm a little scared.
Yeah, I know. See, I'm not scared of the storm. Strangely enough, I never have been. It's probably there's. I wouldn't even say there's an idiot hiding inside me. It's not hiding very well, but it's that part of me that's one of the few things about me that feels fearless. I'm not frightened of that. So right. Strangely enough, I don't get fearful of that. I don't know why. I should be. I totally should be, considering the fact I'm 6'3" as well. So I'm a little bit taller than most people I'm walking down the street with. So if the lightning's going to hit anyone, it's me. But there's something very romantic about it. It's probably watching all of those 90s rom-coms with Hugh Grant in, where they're standing out in the rain and all that kind of thing. Oh.
Or Singing in the Rain. That's my favorite musical.
Indeed, yeah. That is a good movie.
I think my fear stems from I got locked outside in a thunderstorm one time. And so that was very terrifying, and I think I just never got over it. But
yeah, no, I can understand
Joanna.
that. Joe, hey, how you doing? I love Joe.
Lightning Rod Jones, and also Brian.
Maybe that could be my new handle, because we were also talking about this beforehand, weren't we? About how it's very hard to find you sometimes. Yeah, so many Ben Joneses on Spotify and things like that. I need some kind of thing that will set me aside. Maybe that'll be it, Joanna, and I'll give you credit.
Nice. So okay. So then, would you like release music under this name?
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. Oh yeah, yeah.
LRJ.
And I'd probably take up bull riding or something like that as well.
Oh.
Because I mean, I'd be the oldest debuting bull rider there probably was at 38. But hey, it's never too late to do something crazy.
Do you think you could be the tallest Ben Jones? Because that could be your
I could be, yeah. I guess so. There is a guy, isn't there? There's a songwriter called The Tallest Man on Earth.
But you're the tallest Ben Jones.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I would hope so. I've worked very hard at maintaining my height. You know what I'm saying?
People
I stretch
hire
a lot.
people to come up with this stuff. So,
yeah.
Well, thank you for joining me tonight and being my guest and hanging out with us. Also, Corey.
No, it's a pleasure.
Hi, Corey.
Who has?
Corey.
Oh, hey, Corey.
Oh,
I see
Brian
that
was
when that comes up.
asking,
Yeah.
How old I guess I was when I got locked out.
Oh, yeah,
I
right.
was probably five or six, maybe.
Oh, geez, and
Enough
that's
to be
those formative
terrified.
years. Yeah, those formative years when you do get terrified of things. Yeah.
And the back porch was concrete, and the yard was actually elevated, so things would rush into the concrete area and just feel very dramatic.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And it would be kind of deep puddles. And
Yeah.
so it was very much a thunder and lightning storm, huge crashes.
Yeah.
And
That's traumatizing.
yeah, because I like to watch the storm. I went outside on the back porch to watch it roll in, and then it got real dramatic, so I turned around to go back inside, and someone had locked the door. They didn't see I was out there. Or
Dang.
I assume they didn't.
Or
see
did they?
Could
Yeah.
have been my little brother who was but I was terrified, and I was banging on the door and
Hey, little guy, where's your sister gone? She's moved away.
I don't
She's
know.
moved away.
I haven't seen her.
She's
it's
moved.
Okay, I got him back real good years later, and I've done the
Did you
worst
sell
thing
it?
they've
Did
ever
you?
done to him.
You sold him to the travelling carnival that came through.
Not
That's very mean of you.
quite. But I did tell him how to get to his best friend's house, knowing we weren't allowed to walk past the stop sign.
Ah, I
Got a
see.
whooping for that, so yeah. Anyways, that's probably really why I'm not a huge fan of being exposed to thunderstorms.
No, I get it. It's
love
so
watching
funny,
them blow
those
in,
things.
though.
Yeah. But it's so funny, those things that stick with you from those periods of time. I remember the thing I'm most frightened of are spiders. And the reason being, I mean, if there's one in the house, I will put a glass over it and put it out. I don't kill anything. Mm-hmm. But the reason being was when I was a child, we had long before the days of health and safety measures were brought in, they would still have these weird, eccentric, cranky, odd type people come in to the school assemblies, and give talks and things like that. And we had this guy come in who looked like Crocodile Dundee. He was wearing all khaki kind of and leather type. Look, I mean, it was crazy. And he had all of these dead insects and things in cases, all set out.
Entomologist?
I don't know. That's above my pay grade. But
Cool.
he was he was like he would go around schools and do these little workshop type things about different creatures and things. And as I say, the vast majority of these things were all dead and in cases. But he had with him, a lizard and something else, and then he had a tarantula spider. And he was talking about it, and he said, who would like to hold the spider? And I'm sitting in the front row. There's probably about 400 children, we're all just sitting on the floor, and I was 5 or 6. And all these kids' hands went up, and mine didn't. And he honed in on me, and he walked towards me, and he very nonchalantly just plonked this spider on my hand. Now, bearing in mind, I'm 5, 6.
Wow.
It's very small, and this spider starts walking up my arm, and I'm frozen. I'm absolutely frozen, and it gets right the way to the top of my shoulder. And as nonchalantly as he put it down, he then just picked it up and took it off again. And after that, I was terrified, absolutely terrified of spiders. And they would magnify in my line of sight. So I could see a spider that was that big, but I would see it as being huge because I was so frightened of it. So that's taken me a while in my life. Like, silly things have happened, like where very embarrassing situations.
What do you think was scary about it?
Because I wasn't in control.
It didn't bite you. And those particular, they don't really, right?
No. It's nothing to do with. It's nothing to do with the danger. I'm not frightened of those sorts of things. I'm not frightened of snakes, although I know they're very dangerous. I'm not frightened of them, but my fear comes from the lack of control I have over it. Because I think you don't understand that as a child, but I'm pretty sure it was that I wasn't given the choice. It was taken away from me. And, as a kid, you don't understand that. You're just like, whoa, this thing's been through. I didn't know I was frightened of it until it was there, Right. I remember getting chased by a dog as well when I was a kid. And so for a little while, when dogs would bark or something, whereas I love dogs, you can't not love dogs. They're what humans should be. But, but it stayed with me. But in very embarrassing situations at times. Very, very embarrassing situations.
Is there one you care to share?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There was one night when my girlfriend at the time and I were watching a movie. We were watching that Johnny Depp movie, Blow, all about that guy, the drug smuggler. And we got to the end of it. I had this particularly oversized television that I'd bought from a thrift store auction type thing. I used to go regularly. I would go out and I'd just buy these random things, and my girlfriend would come home, and I'd say to her, "Now I've got some good news and some potentially upsetting news," and she'd be like, "What have you bought now?" And she'd walk in, and I'd put some. I bought a harmonium once, a full-sized harmonium, pump organ, and I had two of my friends and I lived on the first floor of an apartment building, and we walked it up. And she came in, she was like, "So are we turning the home into a chapel or something?" But it was like I would find these things and I'd be like, "Oh yeah, that'll be great. That'll go great in the living room." So I had this stupidly enormous old style television, like from behind was like a tube television. It was from the side, it was huge.
Yeah.
But it was great for watching movies of a night time. So you'd pull the curtains and it would be like being in the cinema. So we got to the end of that movie, Blow, and I came off the sofa and went over to the DVD player to, take it out. And I somehow, from the corner of my eye, with the light that was coming off of the television screen, because that was the only light in the room, I kind of saw this shadow move on the floor. And I got up and I said to her, I'd switched the light on, and I went to her, I said, "Is there like a spider on me or something like that?" And I went like this, and this spider came off of me, and it was probably only, like that big. That's with legs and everything, like the body was probably about, that. But it was a big, thick, kind of black spider. And
it had some weight to it.
Oh, yeah. And I am, and now bearing in mind, I was probably at this point 27 years old. I started hyperventilating. I took all of my clothes off, other than my underpants, and stood on our coffee table in the middle of the room to make sure there was nothing else on me. It was just ridiculous. My illogical fear from these things makes me do the stupidest things. But at least I'm honest. I'll tell you. Yeah. But yeah, it was. I was glad there wasn't anybody else around. But the thing is it plays into the right reasons why I don't really drink. Because when I drink, I get really highly emotional, and I got to a point where I was like, I'm tired of all my friends seeing me cry, so I'm just not going to drink that much anymore. And the same thing with the spider thing. It's like I can't allow these things to control me to that level, because if other people see it, they'll realise how ridiculous I am.
Would you ever be on like a TV show where you're like in a tub of spiders or something?
No, absolutely not.
Overcome the fear?
No. No, I've never. You've got to really want to be famous to do those sorts of things, like to subject yourself to really we're gonna feed you some testicles of a kangaroo, or you've got to lay in a bath full of locusts. It's like, forget it. No, I'm fine. I've had friends who've had hypnotherapy and all sorts for those sorts of things.
I don't have the same like fear,
Mm.
like where I'm hyperventilating, but I don't like feeling a web on me or having a spider
Right.
on my person. No, like I like will
Yeah.
do a weird dance to get whatever off.
But
But any bug, anything. Like,
Yeah, no, yeah, but see, that's the funny thing. I
I
don't
might
have that
leave
problem
a
with any
ladybug
others.
and that's it. Like I'll let.
I
the
don't have
ladybug
any.
stay.
I don't have any problem with any others. Like ants.
I don't like ants. No.
I've got no problem with any of the others. Like none. Yeah, like the crane flies. The daddy long legs.
Yeah.
Nothing. I've got no problem with any of those things.
Well, daddy
It's
long legs
so
are still
odd.
spiders, technically.
Yeah. Did you ever see the Ricky Gervais bit about that?
No.
Where he's talking about when God was creating all of the creatures, and he's like, and he gets to the end of it, and he's like, I've got this little bit of something left over. There you go, and he goes like that. He's like, you're a daddy long legs, and he's like, oh yeah, what can I do? He says, well, you've got the most powerful venom in you that there is on earth. And he's like, oh great, and he goes, right, we'll take those away. He's like, and so it's like that's why they actually have like a really powerful poison inside them, but they don't have the teeth to administer it. So they are. It's so funny but that was his whole thing, and that was why God took the teeth away from the daddy long legs, because he was like, Ricky Gervais does it better than I do, but
I mean, he's pretty funny. What?
Oh, I love him.
Okay, I need to ask you about your album. What do you want to tell us about your album?
Oh,
your
one
album
second,
just
my
released.
for some reason my screen has just gone. You can still see me, right?
Yes.
That's good. For some reason it went off there. Oh, so the album, yeah, it was born out of necessity of not losing my mind during lockdown, because obviously that happened, and I think that week when South by got cancelled, all of us were kind of scratching our heads. It was all a little bit of a, that whole, what's this all about? How long is this going to last? And I think the longer that it went on, I'd already started to write some songs, not to do with being stuck indoors or anything, but that worked its way into it pretty fast. But before I knew it, I'd written 4 or 5 songs, and this thing was still going on. And I'd recently acquired Logic, and yeah, there you are. I wonder where you've gone now. I thought, well, I've just gone very large on the screen, and I'm not that comfortable looking at myself.
Long story, but keep going.
It's okay. But yeah, so it wasn't a plan to make an album. It was a plan to just record some songs and teach myself how to use the software. And I've got a very good friend here in town, Eric Betancourt, who's another great singer-songwriter. And he's also a whiz with technology. So he was like, he gave me the laptop that I'm on now. He actually gave it to me. He was like, if you want to get these things done, I'll give you a laptop. He's one of those people. He's always like looking for a deal on Craigslist, and he'll find like a MacBook that isn't working properly or something, and he'll buy it for nominal amount of money, and he will just fix it. Yeah, and that's the way he's brilliant with lots of things like that. And so he'd done that with that, and so then I was like, well, I've got no reason not to use this. And so before I knew it, I found Logic really, really easy to use, honestly, because I'd used Pro Tools before, and I realised the parameters. As long as you didn't try and do things that were completely out of your wheelhouse, as long as it was all about listening to the sound, I learned how to use it pretty fast. And before I knew it, as I say, I had like 9 songs recorded. And it held together like an album. It didn't just feel like a collection of songs where there were disparate. It was quite thematic, lyrically and musically. But I realised then, I'd spent 2 or 3 months, and I thought, well, I may as well do something with this. Rather than just have them as really good demos, I'll just put it out.
Right.
And so yeah, it wasn't any like with most things in my life where I'm in charge of, there was no real grand plan behind it.
Okay. Well, I just shared the link in the chat.
Oh great. Yeah. It's on all the things, Spotify and iTunes and Apple Music and
Actually, Joanna, will you double check
whatever
me and make
things.
sure I shared the correct link? Just had a I
That's
had
it,
just had a
Joanna.
major technical fiasco. 5
Oh,
minutes
really?
ago.
I was
Yeah, that's why
wondering
I
what
just
had happened.
appeared. I was like, oh, they'll be fine. I'll be right back.
I thought what you had done was I thought you were just maximising me.
You're
I
like,
thought, oh,
right.
she's bringing me to the centre here. She's making me very important. Woo! I've just filled the screen.
I realized, so the way that this streaming works is that it works better if all of my other apps and tabs are closed. So I
see.
realized I had so many things open, and I was like, I need to shut that down. And then I shut down my browser too.
It's all that stocks, shares, and Bitcoin trading you've been doing on the side.
There you go.
I know what's going on.
Yeah, well, don't tell anyone else.
All that Ethereum and Bitcoin. That's the big thing at the moment. You know, all of the cryptocurrency trading. It's how we're all going to survive.
Yeah, I don't like it. What do you think about, is it NFTs?
I don't understand all of it. That's the problem. I've got friends who've really read into the cryptocurrency thing and how it all works, and they investing money into it. And it seems, I mean, it's very legit. You know, people are making good amounts of money at it. But yeah, I mean, all of those things scare me, mainly just because I've never really had enough money to be able to gamble with. Do you know what I mean?
Same.
So I don't really understand it. All I understand is that the NFT thing is quite, because of the amount of energy they have to use on the servers that exist that create all these things, it's very impactful on an environmental level. That's all I really know. But beyond that,
It is impactful.
it's like this.
Way.
Yeah, very bad.
Because it seems like
The amount of energy it uses, yeah.
You are taking a reward or a perk or like something, tickets, merch, things that used to be physical, and potentially making them digital.
Yeah.
Which is, if you think about it, you're not using a factory to make t-shirts or press physical, potentially.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but you're transferring it to something that's digital, so it's a different energy. So it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know which is better, ultimately.
Yeah, but it sounds though, as I say, from what I've read about it so far, and there'll be other people out there who know far more about it than we do at this point, but that it's the amount of servers that are involved in the amount of energy that it takes to create these things, and to, you know, that's what I'm saying. It's that usage of electricity and energy that's causing
Right.
it's not environmentally sound yet. I'm sure they'll find ways eventually, but
Yeah.
I mean, if we were smart as human beings, if we really did live in some kind of socialist utopia rather than the capitalist, fairground that we're living in, that only benefits a very, very small amount of people, we would have a long time ago moved over to renewable energy sources for everything. You know, wind and solar would be the predominant things, but they'll find reasons to tell you why it's not viable. But the only reason why it's not viable is because they can't make enough money out of it yet.
Nice.
The oil companies will be cut out, and all of, it's that thing. And I think that's the same thing with a lot of the online, like the Bitcoin thing and everything. It's almost, they're rebellions. They're rebellions against the, what's the word that I'm looking for? The establishment. That's really what it is all about, as far as I can see. It's allowing us, the small people, to make some money.
I've gotten you way off on a tangent.
It's all right.
Joanna.
That's welcome to my life.
Joanna clarified, she confirmed that the link I shared is legitimate. It takes
Oh, yeah.
everyone to your Spotify
Legit.
album. Joanna also shared your Bandcamp, and I popped it up on the screen earlier. I'll share it
She's the
again.
best.
Thanks, Joanna.
She really is the best. I love Joanna.
Now, this is kind of a random question, but can you whistle, like, on the mic? Like, if you're playing a song? Do you have a clear, solid whistle, even when you're
I do.
nervous, that you can...
I do. I even
Really?
have a song that has a whistling solo in it as well.
Did you play that at Peggy's work party?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
No, it's a solo song.
There's a couple of... I've just witnessed in the last week 2 people who just broke out and whistled in the middle of a song, and I'm like, that actually is hard. Like, I
Yeah.
cannot do that.
I have
Like, I
2
can
friends.
whistle, but it's not like a solid whistle, like... But it's not like I can't control the vibrato or anything, and I'm like...
I have 2 friends, Josh Grider and Drew Kennedy. They're both really great songwriters. They're based in New Braunfels. But they have a little side project together called the Topo Chico Cowboys, and they've just released a single called the West Texas Cloud Appreciation Society. It's really great, and they have a harmony whistling solo
Whoa.
in the middle of it. They whistle in harmony, and I just played Waltstock, which is Walt Wilkins' yearly festival, this weekend, and they performed it, and they did the harmony whistling solo live. It was great, really, really good.
I need to see that.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I have a couple more music questions to ask you.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure
Hit
I
me.
at least ask you. Okay, so do you have sometimes I think about this, okay, if I just want to feel like a badass and I'm walking into a club and they're gonna play my theme song or something and I'm just gonna feel oh yeah, I'm I'm it, walking in, what would that song be for you? Where you're that's right, and you're walking in and everyone's whoa.
I'll tell you mine if you tell me yours.
Okay. Go.
Mine would probably be something like "Staying Alive" by the Bee Gees.
Okay, that's a great one.
Because it makes me think of that scene in Saturday Night Fever right at the end where he actually even says it. He says, "I'm going to go strut," and then you see him right at the end of the movie, and it's John Travolta strutting down the street. There's something about it that's so empowering because you can walk to it, but there's also that you kind of hold yourself up higher.
Yeah.
And I think what it is, it's nothing to do, at least for me anyway, it's nothing to do with an arrogance or anything, because I don't feel that. But it's just that little thing that gives you that lift, that boost.
Yes. Really.
So yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that thing that makes you want to kind of
jump up and down. But
so what's yours?
Supermassive Black Hole by Muse.
Okay, I can understand that.
Because that intro, it just
it's massive,
and then it it goes, it's
yeah,
great. Yeah,
it's massive. It's an epic song.
Yes.
They are a band of modern day Queen proportions. It seems.
Yes.
They even used the Queen's producer on one of their records, actually, Roy Thomas Baker.
Nice. They were the first band that blew my mind.
Yeah, I can understand that.
In my musical journey, they were.
Yeah.
They broke rules I didn't know that I wrote.
Right.
There's a box, and they busted through the box, and I was
I was going to ask you that actually. What were your initial influences that made you want to start writing songs that were outside of the personal reasons of I want to express something? What were the artists, the three main artists to you that really made you want to go, that's what I want to do?
That's a good question. I'm trying to think of what prompted me to write a song.
Yeah.
Was it seeing some? I never saw women or young women
right.
songwriters that were I wrote this song, and then they played it and I was oh my gosh, that's great. It was just seeing mainly hearing music, not really ever seeing live performances as a kid.
Yeah.
And not knowing that was a thing that you could do. So, but I was always making up songs and stuff. But I think, so I think that it was probably a Christian boy band that I got excited about, that made me want to get into making music that made me feel like their songs made me feel. And then Muse was the next band I think that I got really into. I would still call them my favorite band. They're just such a pinnacle in my journey.
Yeah.
They're the band that I've paid the most to see, that I've traveled the farthest to see. I went to see them at Red Rocks.
Cool.
Yeah, it was really great.
We always like to say we played Red Rocks, Andrea and I, because on our very first trip over here, we visited Red Rocks. And it was on a day when there were no shows going on, so we just went down and we filmed ourselves singing on the stage there. So it's technically we've played Red Rocks.
Nice. Is that a stage that you want to play in the future?
No.
Okay.
I mean,
Why?
if we were offered it, that'd be great. No, because I don't care about all that stuff. I used to care, but we've been very fortunate. We've gone out on 3 high-profile artist tours where we've gotten to play really
Giant
illustrious venues. Well, they're not so much giant, but we've gotten to play to like 5,000 people at a time, kind of thing.
Right.
And in like really beautiful old theatres as well, all across the United States and in the UK. So once you've done that a bunch, there's certain places I'd still love to play a legitimate show at the Ryman in Nashville. We've played on that stage again, though. It was on one. We went there we went and did a tour of the place, and they let us get on the stage and sing a song, and they filmed it. But like I've had friends who've played there. Shiny Ribs played there, opening up for Robert Elkeen, and actually legitimately played the Ryman. I'd like to do that, but beyond that, no. The big things don't really interest me. Mainly because I'm not in a rock band or I'm not Neil Young or something like that. As in, I don't feel like what it is that we do would translate very well on a stage like that. And also just because it's that I'm at that point in my life where it's like I actually like small things. I like the intimacy. It's not about that, I have delicate singer-songwriter-y type songs to sing. It's nothing to do with that. It's just I like the immediacy of smaller things. Of course, I'm not stupid. If I was offered it, I'll play anywhere. If someone rang up tomorrow and said, you can be the opening act at Coachella, we'll go play it. But it's not an ambition for me. No, not at all. Not even slightly.
Okay.
But I think it's wonderful for anyone else, It's not a judgmental thing.
What is your first childhood memory of hearing a song or a piece of music and just like being grabbed by it, being enamored by it?
I was born in 1982. My dad bought our first compact disc player in 1986. And I remember two things particularly. One was that we had 4 CDs because Dad joined one of those record of the month clubs things that existed for a while, where you'd buy one and you'd get 4 free or something.
Nice.
And it was a thing you signed up for, But many people like the Britannia Music Club. There was a bunch of them, the Columbia Club. And I remember the ones I remember that we had were George Harrison's Cloud 9 album, which came out in 87. So we must have got it in 87, saying that. We had the greatest hits of the Bee Gees, the Beaches soundtrack, of all things, randomly. They're the 3 records. Oh, and Endless Summer by the Beach Boys. I remember those 4. Oh, and Bob Dylan's greatest hits, the first Bob Dylan greatest hits. And my dad showed me how to use the CD player. I was like 4, 5,
Okay.
Showed me how to use it, and I would sit in our living room. We had this really lovely old chair over in the corner. And my dad it's where I get it from, I guess, like obsessed with books. So we had like a mini library in our living room. My dad had put up like 10 bookshelves, and they were filled around the walls with books. And then we had our hi-fi system and all the records underneath, and this new little burgeoning CD collection. And I remember sitting with the headphones on, obsessively listening to those 5 records, but particularly to Cloud 9, to Endless Summer, the Bee Gees' greatest hits. I think there's a part of me that doesn't remember listening to anything but that for maybe 2 years.
Wow.
And those were the things that hooked me. That, and then when I got a cassette player in my own bedroom, the first cassettes that I got were the Beatles' Red album, which was like the collection of the stuff that went up to, it was like 62 to 65 or 66. And I got a Buddy Holly Greatest Hits and ABBA Gold. And again, they were just such random things, but that's what got me into that. And I can still go back to that and say that from that period in my life, that's what gave me my core enthusiasm about music. Because my favourite things are still the Beach Boys, the Beatles, and all of the solo Beatles stuff, Bob Dylan, ABBA, the Bee Gees, Neil Young, all of that stuff. And I'm grateful that my dad had such a great record collection. I love lots of modern stuff, don't get me wrong, but as in they were the core things that really just made me. I couldn't obviously, like, we can't when you first hear music that really does something to you. I couldn't explain it, but I know for a fact it gave me my core principles even as a singer.
Right.
Those records taught me how to sing, particularly the Bee Gees' Greatest Hits, because I've got a strong falsetto. I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm a good singer, but I'm saying that if I've got certain skills, I sing really well, very high, and that's from listening to the Bee Gees and the Beach Boys. You don't realise you're doing it. All you're doing when you're sitting there as a kid, and you know this the same. You're just singing along to something. That's all you're doing. You don't understand that you're learning how to use your diaphragm or your head voice, or that you're learning vocal techniques. You're just trying to mimic what it is that you're hearing. And so any time that I get into some kind of funk, I do go back to all those old records. I mean, they're never old to me. But I go back to those things, and just it reminds me of why I wanted to do this in the first place. Sorry, that was a long answer.
No, that's okay. I appreciate it. And there's lots of comments of people like, yeah, that's a great soundtrack. That's a great combination.
It really was. That Beaches soundtrack was great. I have to be. I mean, like, that was the first exposure I had to Randy Newman, because Bette Midler does a version of I Think It's Gonna Rain Today, which is one of the early Randy Newman songs. And if you'd only heard Randy Newman's version when you were a kid, you wouldn't have related to it. Now, I mean, I love Randy Newman now. He's one of my all-time favourite writers, just because he's so uninhibited and he's so unaffected. That's why he's such a great writer. But that song, hearing her version of it, yes, it's a very heavily orchestrated version of that, but it's so beautiful. That stuck with me for years and years. Really, like, I mean, I can still go back and enjoy that soundtrack. It's a real guilty pleasure.
That's awesome.
Real guilty pleasure.
This will probably be my last question for this section. What is this is the question I was like, I don't know how to ask this question. I'm fumbling around with it. But, like, I'm curious about a situation that seemed like the worst. Maybe it was like a gig that was like, ugh, that was surely the worst thing we've ever done. But it actually turned out to be a really great thing. Like, does any situation like that come to mind?
I think I've been fortunate that in my formative years as a musician, sort of like my late teens into my early 20s, I had some very jarring experiences that at the time didn't necessarily feel like they led to a positive, but I know that they did from the point of view of honing your craft as an entertainer. I remember two instances in particular. When I was 16, my parents had broken up the year before, and my dad had moved off of the island that I grew up on, an island called the Isle of Sheppey, which is off the southeast coast of England. It's a small little place. And we'd moved to the mainland, even though there was a bridge from our island. We weren't ever really disconnected, but it was the mainland. Right. And I would go over and stay with my dad every weekend up until I left school. And I got a little weekly gig at the pub that was basically at the end of the road where he was living. And it was where I cut my teeth. I learned to just do shows on my own. As I say, I was probably, between 15 and 16. And there was a guy who started coming along, another young guy, played the keyboard, and he would play with backing tracks because he didn't sing. Right. So my dad and his dad thought, they were like, why don't we put our two sons together? Because your boy sings and plays guitar, and my boy plays this and he has the backing tracks, and they can go out and make some money. And they got us a booking at a pub in the town where I was living. It was a rough joint. It was a biker's pub, and that's not saying that all bikers places are rough joints, but you have to be a certain type of music to go down well in a biker's joint. Generally, you've got to be a rock band, it seems, especially in the town where I was from. And we were not a rock band, but I could get away with stuff because I was into early rock and roll.
Right.
So I, in my mind, I was like, right, well, I can play Little Richard, I can play Chuck Berry, I can play Fats Domino, I can play Jerry Lee Lewis, I can play Elvis. I can get away with enough, and early Beatles stuff, to get away with enough so that they don't hate us.
Right.
But this other guy, because you're both young, and you always think you know it all when you're young.
Right.
My dad always had a great saying for it, was that that you when you're 18, you think your parents are stupid. When you get to 21, you wonder how they got so smart so fast, because it's that thing, you think you know it all.
Right.
And this guy who I was playing with, again, really nice chap, but he decided that I was getting a bit too much attention doing this thing, and he said, I want to do some instrumental things. I was like, okay. And I was thinking we were going to do like, Apache by the Shadows or something that would go down okay, that would go okay. He decided to do an instrumental version of Celine Dion's My Heart Will Go On in a biker pub. The landlady of the pub walked over and pulled the power cord out of the wall when he was halfway through the song.
Wow.
And she just said, "Load up the jukebox, boys. Your gig's finished, guys." And it was like,
wow.
It was so uncomfortable and so embarrassing, because you're young guys, and and I'd said to him as I was walking off, I was like, "Mate, don't play that song. Play anything but that." And he was like, No, I'm good at this. I'm like,
wow.
So it wasn't so much a learning curve as it was one of those oh God moments. Oh no, I want the ground to open and swallow me. The next instance of that was when I went to college. A bunch of friends and I, we formed a party band, a function band, where we would go out and play rock and roll songs. So it was all old stuff. And we were booked to play a Rockers Reunion, which is the Hells Angels chapter in the UK, one of the chapters. And we went and we did the show, and it was at a really dingy little club. I mean, 3 cockroaches came across the stage while we were playing. It was dingy.
Ugh.
It was like, you walk in and your feet stick to the floor kind of thing. And they had a DJ who was starting the night and then playing in between our sets. And he was playing 3/4 of the stuff that we were playing, and they were loving it. And we're thinking, great, we're going to go down easy. We played and we got slow hand clapped.
Slow claps. Wow.
It was paralyzing, because you're like, oh God, they fucking hate us. And they would kick off. They were the sorts of guys who would kick off. They were there to have a fucking riot, not fighting right, but to have like a party. We were pulling out everything we could to try and win these guys over. I wasn't fronting it. I was playing piano and singing backup in this band, so luckily I wasn't front. But it was still that thing of going, and we got paid off. They're the 2 instances in my life where I've ever been paid off of a show. Paid to go home.
Oh, right.
Literally paid off before the end of the show, because we had contracts. That was the lucky thing about the second one. The first one, they just paid us half the money, and they because they decided to end it, they could have decided not to pay us, but they were decent enough to do that. But that second one, we were on a contract, so they just paid us. And then the DJ carried on playing, and he was playing all the stuff that we had in our set, and it's not like we were playing homogenized, watered down versions. We were playing really hard hitting rock stuff, like rock and roll, and
what was the disconnect, do you think?
I don't know. I've thought about that over.
Your lead person couldn't sing or something?
Oh no, he was a really good singer. I mean, I'm still good friends with him back home. He's a good singer. He's a good songwriter as well. But I think what it was that maybe they thought they already had a predetermined idea that we were these young, clean-cut white guys coming in and playing dirty kind of music, and they just didn't believe it. I think that was what it was. That, and also I think sometimes just people like to mess with you.
Yeah.
Honestly. They are the 2 instances, though, where I had those situations, like what you were saying. That's the nearest I've had to something where you'll go, oh, that was awful. I mean, I've had the same sort of things happen where, you know, you'll go and play somewhere and there's awful sound, and that really affects your ability to enjoy the gig, even though the gig will go well.
Right.
But beyond that, they're the two instances in my life where I was just like, what am I doing? This was dreadful. It was like the real embodiment of those dreams you have where you're walking down the street and then you look down and you realise you've got no clothes on and everyone's looking at you and they're all pointing, and it was awful. It was just so dehumanising because they hated it. And then you're like, it's that whole thing, because it's never about then just the music you're playing. You're questioning yourself then. You're going, oh, why don't they like me? So it went deeper, I guess, than I realised at the time. But it did me the world of good, because for me, my dad, we would always talk about music a lot, and we would talk about the Beatles in Hamburg before the Beatles became famous, obviously. We would talk about that and how that they would play at like the Star Club, and they would have these Germans shouting at them, going, "Max Schau, make a show." And so they would do all sorts of outrageous things to entertain the crowd. So by the time they got signed, even though they were still in their early 20s, they really knew how to entertain a crowd. Yeah. And that always stuck with me. I'm again grateful to my dad for that, because it was that whole, as long as you get up and do something with conviction, right, you can always hold your head high. Because at the end of the day, it's just entertainment. Even if you're bearing your soul artistically, if people don't react to it, that is on you. It's not on them. It's on you. So it's like, but again, on the flip side of that, it's about not taking yourself too seriously. It's not the end of the world. And I've said it to Andrea plenty of times when we have a tendency as a duo to be very self-critical because we want to be as good as we can be. Right. But I have this it comes across as a cavalier attitude, but it's not. It's just that I say to her, look, if we have a bad gig, we have a bad gig. It's not open heart surgery. It's not like we just slipped and went, oh, we've just cut that artery open, the guy's dead on the table. It's just a bad gig. Who gives a shit? And the next, we'll get them at the next one. Yeah. It's not about, and that's not saying that I don't put 110% effort in every time. I try to. There's always going to be the odd gig where you feel a bit crabby, but I still maintain that, which is, it's no big deal. It's just a gig. Right. But those experiences, I think, made me feel that way. Sorry, that was a really long answer.
That's all right. Okay. You ready for some pop questions? So
yeah.
Okay.
I thought you got me a present there.
It is shiny.
It is.
Have you ever seen your all-time favorite band perform live?
Yes, I've actually. So you can see these posters behind me. Mm-hmm. The Brian Wilson things. Not only have I seen my all-time favourite band perform live, I've opened up for them. Brian Wilson is my all-time musical hero. He and Paul McCartney. And yes, I have extensively. And awesome. even before I toured with him, I'd seen him 20 times, literally 20 times, which is kind of obsessive. If they'd have known that, they probably wouldn't have let me go out on the road with him.
Have you ever gone on a date as a favor?
Ooh, that's interesting. I don't think so. I don't. Have you?
I went to prom as a favor.
What? Just as a favor to someone? You mean, as in like?
I went to a couple of different proms. One I went.
Were you a prom addict?
No.
Hi, I'm Natalie. I'm 34 and I'm a prom addict.
My actual prom was kind of lame, so I was kind of excited to get to go to another one. But
you got a do-over.
Kind of, yeah. I went with my cousin by marriage, and he was very introverted, and at least then in high school very kind of socially awkward. So his mom asked my mom, who asked me.
Right, okay.
And I was I guess.
I think the nearest I can say to that.
With friends, sure.
Yeah, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. That's good. But I think the nearest I can come to that is I took one of my friend's daughters to see a band that she really wanted to see, but she wasn't. She was of legal age, but she wasn't old enough to go on her own. So I think I was like 25 or something, and she was like 18. So it wasn't a date, but it was. I did take her to this show so that she didn't have to go alone, because her parents, they were like, it's not really our sort of music. I went and I watched the clock for the whole time because it was something that it was like really full on emo music. I couldn't stand it.
Nice.
But she was such a sweet girl, and still is. She's got her own little family now and everything, and it's just it blows my mind now to see that she's all grown up. And I'm like, I remember taking her to that little gig, and I was standing at the back, nice. Waiting it out. So I guess that's the nearest thing. But yeah, it wasn't quite a date. It was, but it was a favour.
I'll make myself ask a question.
All right.
Have I ever been a bully?
Oh, have you ever
For
been a
sure
bully?
to my siblings growing
Yeah?
up. Like,
How many have you got?
5.
Oh, wow.
So they're all younger. But
Right.
mainly my brother right under me. We would give each other a really hard time. But like it's not really satisfying to be a bully, so it's not like a thing I did.
Of course
all the time.
not. No.
But like it'd be really short-lived bursts of bullying.
Yeah.
And then we'd get in trouble and it's like, it's not worth it.
Yeah. It's not like being a bully who comes from an abusive household and then goes and bullies other kids because they're in a bad... There's a difference. It's more like sibling rivalry, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Because I've got 4 other siblings, but they're all older than me. I'm the youngest. Whereas, so if you're the eldest, I'm the youngest. I am the baby. So I'm 38, but my eldest sibling was born in 1963. So she was 19 when I was born.
Wow.
Yeah. So and my next one is 17 years older than me, and then the other one is like 14 or 13 years older than me, and the one who's closest to me is 8 years older than me. So I there's a big gap.
Were you
I didn't
surprised?
get. No, but I was my dad and my mum. It was they were. Well, that was my dad's 3rd marriage.
Okay.
So
Joanna
I am
said she could be.
She could be my sister. Hey, she's my sister from another mister.
There you go.
She really is.
Have
But yeah,
I ever been peed on by an animal? Oh, I'm sure. I was like holding a puppy. That's kind of the worst.
Yeah,
especially
it is.
because like you don't expect to come upon a puppy. Like
No.
I've never really had one. So of course I'm like dressed nice, you're holding the puppy and then your arm is warm and you're like, oh man, dang it. So
I have a dog. I have a dog now, and he's never peed on me, but I have. Whilst I've had him, we've been around other people with their smaller dogs, and the dogs have gotten that excited that they've peed. I remember my friend's dog pissed all over me because he was so excited to see me, and it was like, and I picked it because I loved this dog as well, my friend's dog, and I picked him up, and he just pissed all over me. Well, I couldn't be angry at him. It wasn't his fault, It's
I know, but still.
It's not nice. It's not the greatest thing.
Well, okay, so we've.
I've got to tell you this. I did tread in fox poop once, and that is So in England, obviously, we have a lot more urban foxes than you get over here.
How can you? Is it clearly? You can
Oh
tell?
yeah, because they eat anything, and their poop, like it's the most rancid thing you could smell. It's like living next door to an abattoir or something. It's awful. And I trod in it, and I had to throw the shoes away.
Wow.
It was
what kind
that
of
bad.
shoes?
Oh, they were just like,
Flip flops.
Yeah, no. No, thank God. If they had been, it would have been all over I'd have had to cut my foot off. That would have been it. That's it. Foot gone. But no, it was. They were just like deck shoes or something, like boating shoes or whatever.
Okay.
But yeah, awful. While we're talking about fecal and urinal matter from other animals.
Awesome. I like this is where I love to keep.
There we go.
At this level.
Let's talk about the poop.
Let's talk about it all. So we've done kind of the segments out of order, all of the random questions I kind of just did together. But did you have another question you wanted to ask me? I didn't really give you a specific moment.
No, that's all good. It's nice to turn the questions around on the interviewer. What would you say if you had if you could only take, and I mean this is a hard one, really, really hard, and it doesn't have to be your definitive answer. Okay. It just has to be your answer now, as in how you feel now.
Thank you.
But if there was either like a fire or something like that, and you could only save one album that you own, what would it be? Like the one, and that would be the one album you'd have on your desert island. You know what I mean? It's like that. You can only listen to that. What could you not do without?
Well, the desert island makes more sense because, like, if most of my albums are replaceable.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's why I kind of have to say it like that, because it's like the only way if you lose it in a fire, it'd be like if there was only the only copies of this album were in your house. But yeah, the desert island thing. If you only had desert one that you could take with you.
So you have electricity and you have a vinyl player, but you can only have one album on this island.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just the way it works, I'm afraid. I don't make the rules.
Today, wow, it's been a minute since I've been in such a busy season. I haven't really stopped to like listen and enjoy music for a couple of weeks. That's weird.
It's funny, isn't it?
Like realize that out loud. Probably it might be David Ramirez's album that he released last year.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, My Love is a Hurricane.
Okay.
I guess I in my head I quantified that as what have I recently really loved. That was how I ended.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, I understand that.
Yeah. If I think back through my entire catalogs of things I like to listen to, I might pull something from like.
Yeah, I mean it's an impossible question. It's an impossible question. It's an impossible question, and it's
those were CDs, and this is a vinyl player.
It's an incredible.
Vinyl. Yeah.
It's an incredibly improbable thing. But I look at it as I recently read. I set myself a task at the beginning of the year because I'm a vociferous reader. I love to read. It's my one big escape in life that gives me an immense amount of pleasure. And I made an intention list at the beginning of the year of 12 novels that I've always intended to read but I've never gotten round to, like classics. Because I always feel like the worst thing you can do is call a novel a classic, because as soon as you make something a classic, no one ever reads it, because it's that thing of it's just there. So since the beginning of the year I read Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. I read Moby Dick because I've never read that. I knew the story but never read it. But I read Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury, and I don't know if you've ever read it, but in that story it's a time set in the future where firemen, they don't actually put fires out. They start fires, and they burn all of the literature that used to exist, because it's a dystopian control time. It comes from the same type of universe as like Brave New World and 1984 by George Orwell. It's that.
Right.
And so I look at it from that point of view. It's that thing of going, if there was one thing I really didn't want to forget. Because the premise of that novel is that the only way that they can spread literature is that there's all these people that live out in the woods, basically, away from the cities, and they memorise books. And so that's how they're spreading the literature, because all of the copies get taken away and burnt all the time. They made a movie a few years ago that had a similar sort of premise with it too, that had Christian Bale in it, and it was a similar idea. But I've always been fascinated by that, because those things that we define ourselves by, I always have thought to myself, if I did have a fire, God forbid, the things I'd want to save are selfishly that are my songs, because unless I've got recordings of them that are online, I don't have other copies of those. Right. Whereas if records get burnt or books get burnt or something, it's dreadful, but I can get them all again.
No, exactly, yeah.
So yeah, but it's still a fascinating concept to me.
And yeah, there are things that I would.
Right.
Or like a journal or something that like those are thoughts that I can't just go buy in a store.
Absolutely, yeah.
So yeah,
we went deep there, man. We went deep.
Okay, well, do you have a song that you want to play?
Yeah, certainly I do.
Which is it off the new album?
I was leaving it up to myself to decide until the moment I played it. So until I pick up the guitar, I don't actually know what I'm going to play. I had a choice of between a few, but yeah, why not? I'm going to play you the title track, I think. So this is the song "Going Nowhere Fast." It has a very loosely themed connection to lockdown, obviously, because it is called "Going Nowhere Fast." It was that idea of I wanted to work that in, but the song actually ended up being about something else. It's kind of about a person that you believe that you can trust, and then you realise that certain circumstances present themselves and you don't know them as well as you thought that you did. And so it grew out of that. So melding those concepts together. So it's called "Going Nowhere Fast." She told the lie so well, you would have sworn it was the truth. You can't concern yourself with such a simple thing like proof. What's wrong with this picture? You can tell me it's alright, but you're never gonna get too far by going nowhere fast. You primed yourself for glory when you chose to rig the game. You may change your story, how it ends stays just the same. How can this be happening? You scream toward the sky. It can't be all that flattering when you get no reply. A penny for your thoughts, a dollar for your doubt, a diamond for the days that you can't learn to live without. You swore to tell the truth, crossed your heart, hope to die. I've seen your brushstrokes, but your picture paints 1,000 lies. Primed yourself for glory when you chose to rig the game. You may change your story, but how it ends stays just the same. How can this be happening? You scream toward the sky. It can't be all that flattering when you get no reply. A penny for your thoughts, a dollar for your doubt, a diamond for the days that you can't learn to live without. You swore to tell the truth, cross your heart, hope to die. I've seen your brushstrokes, but your picture paints 1,000 lies. For the days that you can't learn to live without. You swore to tell the truth, cross your heart, hope to die. I've seen your brushstrokes, but your picture paints 1,000 lies. 1,000 lies. Thank you. I forgot the second verse. I'm not going to lie. I totally forgot it. I got to that point. It was almost like that. What is it? What is it? What is it? So I sang the third verse twice. Because I'm in the spirit.
I don't know it well, you know.
There you go. But I'm just in the spirit of honesty, just so you know. But if you listen to but if you listen to the recorded version, you'll get that other verse, and it'll all make sense.
Wow.
So what you gonna play? Yeah. Hey, always. That's what I'm about, man.
What's happening?
So what you gonna play?
I don't know yet.
See, I like that. It's good.
I'm trying to think what needs to be heard tonight. That's what.
What I wanted to ask you actually before you play is that
okay.
You've got your Kickstarter up and running now for your upcoming record.
Yeah.
How many songs have you got up for consideration for this album?
I am all kinds of twisted. There was a list of 25.
Okay, and you've whittled that down to what?
10.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And so, yeah, the album will have 10. At least that's the plan.
Yeah. Have you recorded it yet, or have you recorded some of it yet, or?
Only like demos on my phone. Not. Like,
all right, cool. That's cool. So yeah. Wicked.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
that's what I wanted to ask you. That was all. Because I have contributed. I'm not saying that to make myself sound good, but I have contributed because obviously, times like these, you want to. I want to hear the album, so it's like that,
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
No, you're welcome. But I was interested about it because obviously I've heard certain songs that you've played on the Peggy's Porch Party live streams and some other little videos and things that I've seen outside of the EP that you made, and so I was just interested as into what songs would be coming up and whether or not one of the ones whether or not what you were going to play is a song that would be on this upcoming album,
probably.
Or it's going to be one. All right, okay, cool, a new one then.
I feel like I would do myself a disservice if I did not share my link, so I'm going to share it in the chats. Kickstarter link is live. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to do one that... Yeah, I'll do Superstitious. And this is one I haven't been playing out as much because it was a co-write with Matt Odemark in Nashville. And he was holding the guitar during the co-write, and so I have this thing that happens where if I'm not holding the instrument, I don't learn the song.
Okay.
But it's a great song, and as of right now, it's in the list of songs that'll be on the album.
And it's called Superstitious.
Yes.
Right on.
Impossible to be here when my magic mirror keeps moving at the speed of light. Sugar in my pocket, wish I could stop it, but it feels so good to be light. We want what we can't have and are afraid may never find. My mind is reeling a superstitious feeling, and it keeps me awake at night. Ooh, 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 ooh. I find a picture and I remember back when you were mine. Our love was hectic, you were electric, a current moving up my spine. We want what we can't have and are afraid may never find. My mind is reeling a superstitious feeling, and it keeps me awake at night. Ooh, 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 ooh. If you wanna ride this roller coaster, you're gonna have a hell of a time. You don't know how low you'll have to
It's a good one.
Yeah?
I was singing along, harmonising on your ooze there. It's great. Yeah.
They're really fun oohs.
Yeah, it's a good little earworm.
Yeah.
So, have you done much co-writing?
Kind of. 2019, I pushed myself to co-write with as many people as possible.
That's cool.
And then I kind of got a little burnt out on it. In 2020, I just sort of was like, I need to just write good songs and not force myself to write with other people.
Yeah, right.
But I still wrote like a decent number of songs with other people, so they kind of.
It's exercising the muscle, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's been good to. I enjoy writing with other people because inevitably I learn a new way to write a song through someone else's techniques. Or
absolutely, and vice versa for them.
I mean, yes. I mean, sometimes people come in it without. There's an attitude of learning that is helpful, and sometimes people don't come in with that. But sometimes I also learn a way that I don't like writing songs, and that's
of course,
fine.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, so you say you wrote that with who did you write that one with?
His name is Matt Odmark. He's up
in
Nashville.
That's what I say. So you went to Nashville to write with him, did you?
I went to Nashville for Americana Fest, and my manager at the time was friends with Matt Odmark, and he connected us.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So, yeah.
So have you done much other writing in Nashville? As in, like, have you ever gone through the thing of going to publishing houses and writing there or anything like that?
Not at a publishing house. I've just made one-on-one contacts, and I've had 2 or 3 other writes there. Yeah, so not very many, but that was my goal for 2020 was to be in Nashville like 3 or 4 times and writing.
Yeah,
more,
I get it. I mean, there's some great writers there. I mean, there's some great writers who don't live there but who go and write there. I've got friends who've got publishing deals in Nashville, and I mean, I've done it. Andrea and I did it very early on. We didn't end up using any of the songs we wrote there, but we have been and done that thing. You try and it's something that I still consider doing again. But not for songs for me, but for other people. I saw that Americana. Yeah, we were
a ticket.
Oh, you do? We were invited to do it, and we've decided not to. Mainly because I'm a bit of a curmudgeon, but I'm not so much of a fan of doing those things anymore. I like going, but I don't enjoy it. I think the reasonings for going and doing anything, those things, it's a bit like the other one, that happens it used to happen in Kansas City. It's now moved to New Orleans. Focalines, yeah. It's the same thing. I don't enjoy them because there's that. Yeah, I enjoy going, and I enjoy the private room things. I don't enjoy the official showcase things. It's because it feels like you're going in trying to get something out of it rather than it just being another performance. And the fact that 9 times out of 10 you're having to pay for the privilege, I'm like, no, it's not for me.
Do you attend the official showcases?
I've done official showcases. Yeah, I mean,
do you also attend them?
What of other?
Yeah. The private showcases?
Yeah, no, yeah, but I prefer the private ones. I prefer the room ones because I just think it's more real. Yeah. I don't like the facade and the pretentiousness, the superficiality of any organised events. It's nothing against the Americana Fest people or the Folk Alliance. It's nothing to do with that. I think the people that I meet there are wonderful, really great. I mean, I've seen over the years some incredible stuff. But it's still under that auspice of the official showcases, that whole, you have to submit. And it's like, it's a popularity contest. I can't get behind anything that makes it like a bureaucracy, that makes it seem like you're pitting people off one another, because the fucking prize at the end of it isn't worth it. You end up paying out of your own pocket to what? Go and get a paid opinion of your songs, or a critique, or that you're aiming at something. It takes the enjoyment of it out for me.
I mean, I haven't ever been invited to actually play the official showcases, so.
Well, no,
are
but
there things you're trying to win?
Well, no, but no, but I mean, from the point of view of that, when when we first went and did Folk Alliance, it was that thing of that. Well, there's agents there, there's labels there are managers there are all those things. So it's you go under that auspice of furthering your career. That's the only reason to ever play Americana Fest or Folk Alliance as a burgeoning artist, to try and further your career. Because if you're established, You're just playing a show.
Right.
Those parts I really enjoyed. I met some people that were just fabulous, like just fabulous people, irrespective of whether I like their music or not. They were just great people. And I think the communities that grow out of it are really, really great. Like the little chapters, particularly like, you get the Swerfer people down this way. I've met some great people. I'd much rather be involved with that than the bigger things. You know what I mean? Like Americana Fest, to me, it's just too big.
Right.
But that's me. It's because I'm a bit of a curmudgeon. I'm not actually criticising what it is that they do or what they stand for. It's not for me.
All right. How did we get there?
Because someone said Americana Fest 2021 is on, and it came up on the screen. But that's great. I'm glad it's on for people to, But if all these things can be done safely, that's great. I'm all for that.
I'm excited to see people again and like be able to choose multiple people to go see music. Like, I think it'll be fun. Yeah.
It's good that you still have the.
Oh, you asked.
You're not cynical like me.
I mean, I try really hard not to be. I'm definitely cynical.
I've just got Larry David living inside me. That's all.
Oh, that's true. That could be your nickname.
There you go, the curmudgeon. Yeah, Curmudgeon Jones. It sounds like an old blues singer.
Curmudgeon. Curmudgeon. Well, I appreciate you so much taking the time to hang out with me tonight. Answer
That's been
some
great.
very wild and random questions.
I love it.
Yeah, thanks everyone for hanging out. Brian, Heather,
Woo!
Joanna. Saw Corey in there.
Yeah, thank you guys. And share it. Share the video again, and
Little Guy Zero.
Other people can listen to our crazy ramblings.
Carol Levering was here for a minute. Yeah, thank y'all all so much for hanging out with us. I like to just like use less words and then none of it makes sense.
Oh, I think being out of the public forum, the social public forum for so long, I've found myself tripping over words and everything all the time
I sound drunk all the time. I just like twist words and I'm like, I'm not drinking. I just can't talk anymore like in public. So I'm just embracing it and rolling with the weird words that I make up all of a sudden. Like, that's not a word. Great.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, y'all have a great night.
This is the first time I've looked like publicly presentable as well, because I had a haircut a couple of weeks ago. Because previous to this, I was looking like some kind of unwashed hippie.
That's right. You were at Peggy's and you had what? Your hair? You had very long hair. Was it pulled back though?
No, I didn't do that because I don't believe men should do that.
What was it? Where was it?
It was just all hanging down. It was all kind of I was all. Okay. It was my Neil Young with a beard look.
I was sitting very far back, so yo.
Probably wise. You probably would have wanted to come and drop $5 into my jar.
Fabulous white jumpsuit on.
Yes, she does. Yeah. She does. She scrubs up well. I want to go
shopping in her closet. Is what I want to do.
Yeah. Hey, I'm telling you, she could have her own show with something like that because she buys so many clothes. She really does. She finds the bargains. I know you've had her on the show. You should have spoken to her about it because it's like she finds the bargains.
I mean, I just didn't maybe know that yet about her, so I didn't.
Oh yeah. I mean, when we were a couple, it was a point of contention because I would joke with her all the time that we would go when we were out on the road. You'd go into a hotel room. And within 5 minutes, she's nested in the place with all of her clothes and stuff. And I would come in and I'd just say to her, have we been burgled? And she'd say, why'd you say that? I was like, the fucking room looks like someone's come in and burgled. It's just because she has this nesting mentality and she's got so many clothes that she takes out on the road. For every one of my outfits, she's got 3 because she has to have an alternate thing. But it isn't actually unnecessary. Because it is an expression of her personality. It's not just because she's like, oh, I'm keeping up appearances. It is an expression of who she is. I didn't think that at the time because you're too close. You're a couple and you're a working entity. So you kind of little resentments kick in at the time. But now, we've been friends for so long now and I know her so well as she knows me so well. So you realise these things about people. And she's like that all the time. That's not just she's like that when she's at home.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, but it kind of is funny because I would have like 3 pairs of jeans, like 3 pairs of uniform black jeans and like 10 flowery shirts. That would be my clothes for 3 weeks. Whereas she would have an entire giant suitcase of like multiple jumpsuits and things like that. So yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well,
I digress.
She's got great style and fashion.
She has, yeah.
Thank you, Jim and Corey and Brian. Y'all all have a wonderful night. We gotta shut this down, and we're gonna go all night.
Oh yeah, we're going for the long haul, man.
Y'all have a good one, and
Now, what did we learn from this?
What did we learn? Y'all have
Good
a
night,
good
y'all.
night.